So let's start with the big story that we're tracking on WION at this hour, where amidst the rising tensions between the two nations, Armenia has now expressed its readiness to work with the international mediators to try and reach a ceasefire with Azerbaijan over the ongoing conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh region. The two neighbors have been locked in a bruising conflict over this disputed region for decades. However, this recent escalation, which has erupted last Sunday, is one of the deadliest in recent times. Over 150 people so far have lost their lives since the clashes began between the two forces. In a joint appeal on Thursday, US President Donald Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin and also the French President Emmanuel Macron have urged the two sides to return to negotiations and also for diplomatic talks to try and resolve the conflict. Now, Armenia has said that it stands ready to engage with Russia, France and the United States, who co-chair the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and to re-establish a ceasefire regime. Now, Armenia has accused Azerbaijani forces of striking the main city in the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region on Friday, as fighting continues to rage on for a sixth straight day. Armenia has said that it is ready to work with mediators for a ceasefire, but Azerbaijan has fired back to escalate the tensions. Now, according to reports, frequent shelling and ambulance sirens were heard in Stepanakert, the main city in Karabakh, on Friday. Meanwhile, dozens of demonstrators waved the Armenian flags and also held up placards that read, "Karabakh is Armenian." They gathered near the residence of the Turkish ambassador to the United States in Washington, D.C., to protest against the ongoing conflict. Armenia has repeatedly accused Turkey of supporting Azerbaijan in this conflict over the disputed region. Although Nagorno-Karabakh belong technically to Azerbaijan, the population there is ethnic Armenian, which is in the majority. Recently, the French President Emmanuel Macron also jumped in and called out Turkey for backing Azerbaijan in the conflict, and accused Turkey of sending Syrian rebel fighters to support its ally in the fight. The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has urged third parties to stay out of the growing conflict over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region, and has said that he hoped that the reports of the Syrian fighters arriving in Azerbaijan via Turkey are not accurate. All right, now to give us more insights in terms of what's actually playing out in this conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia, we're joined in by Onur Erim. He's a political analyst and is joining us live from Istanbul. Mr. Erim, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast on WION. And let me begin by asking you this. This is a conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia that has actually raged on for a few decades. What exactly happening there this time round?
Well, after the collapse of the USSR, with the newly formed republics of the former Soviet Union, the borders that were drawn 100 years ago came actually into effect and became internationalized. Now, what is going on is that with all the past Soviet Union republics,
right,
there's not an issue with any of their borders, which pretty much was, I guess, drawn by Lenin. Almost all of it, I guess. But except for one. So with the okay of Russia in the early 90s, Armenia attacked and occupied a part of Azerbaijan.
Mr. Erim, I want you to talk to us a bit about what is happening in this most recent conflict over the course of the last week. Armenia on Friday came forth and said that it is willing to negotiate. It wants a ceasefire to happen. And it also has accused Turkey that it is backing Azerbaijan. And that is the reason why the conflict is not coming to an end. Can you shed us more light as to why a ceasefire is still not happening, even though Armenia wants a ceasefire there?
Why would there be? That's exactly the point I'm explaining. Azerbaijan, and it's a long story. I know we don't have the time to discuss it. Azerbaijan, finally, after 29 years, did a move to get back its own sovereign land. Now, I know there's been some talk about the mountainous Karabakh, or as they call Ashtar, as some call Ashtar, that it was Armenian, that it's fully Armenian. No. 30 years ago, 1 million Azerbaijanis were cleansed and kicked out of mountainous Karabakh. This is in the UN reports. But forget about that. Even if that wasn't so, this is the sovereign land of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, right now, it seems, it's pretty apparent that Armenia has lost massively on the ground.
Right.
Armenia is losing ground over the land that it occupied illegally from Azerbaijan. Now that's happening. Azerbaijan started crying wolf that let's get back to the table for ceasefire. Ceasefire for what? You don't ceasefire when you're occupying somebody's land. And Azerbaijan is not really right now listening to that, because the president of Azerbaijan, Aliyev, repeatedly said, we'll have ceasefire right this second. Just one condition: leave our land. And there's no response to that.
So, Mr. Erim, just to cut to the chase, are you saying the reason why a ceasefire at this point of time is not possible because Armenia does not want to withdraw from this disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh? Nagorno-Karabakh at this point of time territorially belongs to Azerbaijan, but the population there ethnically is dominated by the Armenians.
Sir, please don't say disputed region. 4 different UN resolutions, a European Union resolution, a NATO understanding. They all have identified the fact for the last 30 years. It is an occupied land of Azerbaijan, and the occupier is Armenia. There is no dispute to this. Let me ask you one question. The mountains Karabakh, which they call as a independent republic called Ashtar.
Right.
Let me ask you one thing. Armenia hasn't even recognized that country. Why? So let's call it what it is. It is not a disputed region. It is a part of a sovereign piece of land of Azerbaijan, occupied illegally by Armenians for the last 29 years.
All right. So at this point of time, just before we let you go, Mr. Onur Erim, do you think the possibility when a ceasefire can actually happen on the ground in Nagorno-Karabakh is only when Armenia withdraws its forces from there?
It's politics. You could never say 100% one way or the other. But President Aliyev of Azerbaijan for the last week to 10 days has been repeatedly saying that the only way they're going to cease fire is if they pull away from their occupied land. It seems he's pretty persistent on this. But again, this is international diplomacy. You never know what will happen within the next 24 hours. We'll keep a close eye. But it seems that President Aliyev is very determined this time to make sure what he says happens, or he will continue to kick the Armenian forces out of Azerbaijani land.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Onur Erim, for joining us and explaining this very complicated conflict that is presently unfolding over the Nagorno-Karabakh region. It remains to be seen as to how soon a ceasefire can in fact be established there.